Today, I'm going to introduce you to somebody very special to me who I have known for about 3 years now. We've been working together 3 years, and her story is one you're going to find inspirational. It may even move you to take some action. If you've been wanting to take action about your health, you've been considering it. Her story, what she shares with you, her tips are going to help you take that action. Let me introduce you to Theresa Varela. She is an award-winning graphic designer, professional calligrapher, and luxury photographer. She is the owner of Silver Swirl Studios and Ballerina Beauty, as well as Boudoir Photography. I always trip up on that word. Theresa aspires to bring positivity and empowerment to her clients through her photography and joy and confidence through her artwork. In the last few years, Theresa has completed creative works for clients such as the governor of New Mexico, the television show Better Call Saul, and the United States Air Force. I did not know that. After severe upheaval in her personal life, including a devastating divorce, surviving and now thriving after a cancer diagnosis, losing nearly 70 pounds since beginning her weight training lifestyle, and navigating in life in her 50s. Theresa is here to discuss how her faith and how simple daily habits have carried her through this turmoil and brought her to the other side of those turbulent times. Her mantra is joy, and it is something you can choose every day. I could not agree with that more. I believe joy is a choice. Theresa lives in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and has two grown children, a fluffy Himalayan cat, and has a playlist for every mood. Theresa, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Carol. And it's true, I'm a collector of music, so I
I
believe
love
music is
that.
really beneficial.
I love
Thank
that.
you for having me.
Absolutely. I kind of do that with podcasts. I have podcasts by mood and
Yes, that
whatever.
too.
It's funny. And it could be everything from true crime to inspiration to health to business, you name it. I've got it in there. I want to talk about your journey and how you went through the diagnosis of cancer to now being back in the gym. You didn't lift for an entire year, as we were talking off camera before. I didn't realize it had been that long. Can you, well, first of all, I want to back up a little bit. Uh, we met about 3 years ago, Teresa and I,
That's
when
right.
she found me online, and I'll let her tell the story. And she went into my Buns and Guns program at the time, and we've been working together ever since. So we'll start there, and then we'll dive a little bit into Teresa's journey. Teresa, you want to talk about that a bit?
Sure, that's right, Carol. I actually saw your ad on Facebook. A mutual friend of ours was in your group and was actually had just completed one of your short programs, which I believe was called the Slim Stomach Solution.
Hmm.
And I loved her results. And your next program that was coming up was Buns and Guns, which was a 12-week program, I believe. And I joined in. I think it was around this time, exactly March of 2021. But prior to that, I had gone through a really devastating divorce and lost almost everything that I owned in 2018. I had lost a lot of weight because of the grief surrounding that, but I had slowly started to gain again. And I looked at myself in the mirror one day and said, this is not me, and I'm ready to be the person I'm supposed to be. So, just as fate would have it, I saw your ad and joined the program, and everything just changed in my life. My whole body has changed. For 15 years, I didn't wear anything sleeveless. I never wore skirts or shorts because I was ashamed of what I look like. And I feel like um, my outside did not represent my inside. And now that's completely changed.
I love what you just said, that your outside wasn't representing how you felt inside. And I've heard that from a
Mhm.
lot of women, especially as they near that late perimenopausal women, or excuse me, window, and they're going through menopause. A lot of times they'll say, I feel one way on the inside. I feel young and like there's a lot of life to be led, but then on the outside it's not matching. So I do hear that quite a bit. You've always had an incredibly positive attitude. I mean, from day one, you really were in the group because we were in a group together. It was a group
Yep.
program. Teresa was always the one encouraging the other women, sharing something with her day, with her story, some kind of win that would lift everyone up. So backing up to, has it been almost 2 years since your cancer diagnosis? Am I right with that?
It's
I can't really.
about 18 months since I was
Okay.
diagnosed. So I had done a lot of mind work and therapy, and then of course the physical transformation up until that point. And I was feeling great. I was poised to take over my photography studio. I had been working with a partner up until that point. I went to a big photography convention and got really sick. I'm not typically one to be sick, especially after I've been weight training and watching what I eat the past few years. So this was very strange. I was experiencing fatigue, easy bruising, as well as headaches, severe headaches. I thought I was maybe having a bout of migraines, which I hadn't had for over 20 years. But it took a good month to be diagnosed. I was in the ER every week for 4 weeks. I had COVID. They also thought I might have meningitis. And eventually the diagnosis came, which my diagnosis was myelodysplastic syndromes. It's the same cancer that Robin Roberts of Good Morning America had and publicized on her show, as well as her recovery. She is now over 10 years post transplant. Um, I was given 1 to 2 years to live. I don't know if I ever shared that with you, Carol, but
No, you didn't.
I never believed that would happen. I went to meet with my oncologist, who is wonderful, and he explained all of the mutations in my bone marrow. Basically, the cancer is a precursor to leukemia, and I had a high risk version of that, which meant I was at high risk for it to turn into acute myeloid leukemia. And if it would have progressed to that point, then it's much harder to treat, and my odds of survival would diminish. So from the get-go, everything was taken away from me, basically in overnight. Within 3 days, I was released from the hospital, and my oncologist said, "I need you to come back for 30 days so we can get this under control." And I was devastated for about 5 minutes. The only thing that really affected me in terms of grief was I'm a calligrapher and a lettering artist. And my oncologist did say that some of my medications would cause tremors in my hand. That was the only time I sort of got choked up or teary eyed. But otherwise, I was pretty resolute that I was going to be the one to beat this. My odds might not have been good in the beginning, um, but I just took it one step at a time. And a little tip, I did not Google all of my symptoms or my diagnosis because I did not want to drive myself crazy. I wanted to trust my doctors and do what they said.
That's a good point because I think that would be me. I would be running over to Google and trying to, see, okay, what are the symptoms? What are they doing? And I think that's really good advice because then you go down a rabbit hole, really get in your head and
Right.
make things worse. Now, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Normally, this type of diagnosis, is it a little difficult to detect? Is it something, I know you said you had to return several times. Does it go unnoticed for a period of time?
Yes, the only way to diagnose this type of cancer is with a bone marrow biopsy. Luckily, my blood work showed such a significant dip in all of the numbers that it alarmed them enough to do the biopsy when they did. So it was really a combination of luck and I call it divine intervention, that I was so sick and I was persistent in going back to the ER every week because nothing was getting accomplished. I had retinal tears, so I thought that maybe I might have a detached retina. We went through a gamut of possibilities, and I'm really grateful that they diagnosed it when they did.
Yes, yeah, early detection is so important. And then you went through a very long treatment process. I mean, you are so strong to have
Yeah.
gone through that. Honestly, that was months.
Months. I spent 30 days initially in the hospital receiving chemotherapy to get my cancer into remission. And then I spent another 6 days, 3 weeks later. Um, Unfortunately, a week after that, I had a severe gallbladder attack and was in the hospital for 17 days, was not allowed to have surgery. One thing about this type of cancer is I have to have all of my chemotherapy inpatient. So I had to live in the hospital for any of my treatments. Um, because of that, I chose to change my environment. There was not a whole lot that I could control, but I could control what I saw in my hospital room. I'm a big Wonder Woman fan, and a friend of mine brought me a life size Wonder Woman. I decorated my room. I set up an Amazon wish list, and people were so generous, either bringing me food or bringing me gifts. And I was very comfortable and was mindful of listening to uplifting music and being in prayer every day and meditating. Um, from the beginning, I just said, okay, I need to go through this time period, but I'm going to be healed. I never had a doubt about that. Um, so I think that played a big role. Um, and I was not allowed to, you mentioned earlier that I didn't weight train for a year. I actually had PICC lines in both of my arms. There's a couple of scars you can see there. And because they were inserted near the bicep, it's very dangerous to lift weights with those implanted. And so I was not allowed to lift weights, which was devastating. But I was also stripped away from a lot of things that I loved doing. I couldn't get my nails done. You can't get waxed. You can't get, any number of things. There's a litany of things that I was not allowed to do during treatment.
It's interesting to me because we spoke often prior to your diagnosis about both of us having suffered with anxiety over the years and a lot of past trauma. And I'm wondering how did you overcome that anxiety? Because that would be the very moment you would think that that anxiety would just rear back up and be roaring at you. How did you keep from going to that place?
I have a very, very deep faith in Jesus. So I clung to that. I have a little picture in my head of being in the arms of the Lord when I feel really anxious. And that's the place that I take myself. But because I've practiced so many mindful um, modalities to control my anxiety, I feel like that was a place that I could go easily. I had phenomenal nurses. Oncology nurses are exceptional. They really took good care of me. And I just refused to believe that this was going to be my story. I was not going to die of cancer. I was not going to leave my children. And there were many obstacles to come, even from that, even having great care and everything working out. Um, I needed a stem cell transplant in order to be cured, or or I would die. So I was actually elated to learn that I had 5 perfect matches in the donor registry. Many people don't even have one. I had 5, and none of them came forward to donate their stem cells to me. For whatever reason, I don't fault them for that, but they are in the registry and they did not respond to calls or emails. So the next option was for my daughter, who is a half match, to become my donor. And you would think that with the half match, that I would have maybe less chance of survival or it wouldn't be as successful. I was really fortunate to receive care at the Colorado Blood Cancer Institute. And in conjunction with my doctor here, they actually put me on a protocol based on a study that was done in 2021. So a very recent protocol. And the type of transplant I received is called a haplotransplant. I had a port installed right here in my chest, and my daughter's stem cells were implanted after I had had some obliterating chemo and 8 rounds of radiation to basically erase all of my biome. Those were the most difficult and dark times. That 34-day stay in Colorado in the hospital, and then the subsequent 100 days after that I needed to stay away from my family and be in Colorado for treatment was difficult, but such a blessing it turned out to be, because so many friends stepped up to help me. They were my caregivers. I wasn't allowed to drive, and so they took me all over Colorado, and it was wonderful.
Mm. How does your daughter feel with all of this, being able to be your donor, which I think is amazing?
She's
How
pretty
is this?
amazing.
How has this been for her?
Um, we've always shared a special bond. She was born 4 days after my birthday, or 4 days before my birthday. And now we're twins because my blood type changed to hers
Really?
after the transplant. Yes, I have a new blood type. Um, so we were already very close, but I think um, with good reason, she feels great that she was able to save me. And what a turn of events, right? I gave life to her and she gave life back to me. So it's a very special bond. And I'm doing much better than a lot of my cohorts, if you will. I met many people who had transplants around the same time, and many of them are suffering with different side effects, or there was one that the transplant was not successful. So I'm coming up on a big milestone. In about 4 weeks. I'll celebrate my first rebirthday, and I still have a baby immune system. So I'll receive my immunizations just like a baby would. And once we reach that milestone, there's a 90% chance that this cancer will not ever return.
Oh,
So that's
what a
pretty good
blessing.
odds.
Yes, very good odds. As you describe this, it's almost like this new birth, new beginning, new life.
Yes.
I mean, it's amazing. You talk about your immune system being like a little baby's and the blood type changing. It really is, such a testimony. What do you think? What do you feel? God, I always felt the same way. I thought God has a purpose for this woman. She's not leaving. She's here.
Yes.
God has a purpose. What do you think he is calling you to do?
I think one of my gifts is that I'm able to relate to a wide variety of people. And in fact, I've had more strangers than ever come up to me and say that they can feel a real positive aura about me, or that I'm really beautiful. And I don't think it's a physical thing. I think, my dad actually said that he feels like it's the Holy Spirit. Um, I don't know any of those things, whatever you believe, universe, source, or God. Um, but I do believe that because of the type of work that I do, I'm able to encourage and empower other people. I've defied many odds. I mean, I'm a Latina. Um, I'm a woman. I'm menopausal now because I was put into menopause after the chemotherapy and the radiation. Um, and I'm a cancer survivor. Those are all really big obstacles to overcome in theory. I want to prove to people that you don't have to settle for that. You don't have to settle for the status quo and say that you're going to gain a lot of weight during menopause, or that you can't be positive, or that your life is not worth living after 50. I'm 51 years old, and I feel better than I did at 31.
Yes, we have that space. We talked about this prior to going on camera, how you have this space created when you go through menopause. Most of us, either our kids are teens getting ready to go off, start their lives, go to college, whatever they're going to do, or maybe they've already left the home. And there's this opportunity for a new beginning. I think that many women think life is over. I know when I
Mm-hmm.
went through menopause, because nobody was talking about it, and it was such the
Yeah.
hush hush. There was a shroud of shame that surrounded it. I've talked a lot about this on here. And to at that time, if somebody had told me I'd be openly doing a podcast and talking about this, I would have said, no, you're crazy. No way.
Yeah.
So, do you want to speak into that a little bit about that change, how it affects women, both the negative aspect of it, but then how we can move beyond that to the positive aspect?
Well, in my case, it was like I sort of consider the cancer as a gift, because you're right. I was reborn, and I have this chance, this opportunity to be the person that I was meant to be. Um, I have found purpose in my work and my creative work for a long time, and now I just happen to have more time to do it because my children are grown. Um, I've never been one to think of menopause as this. I think some women think of it as a death sentence. I don't know why. I'm more alive than ever. I feel great about that. But I do want to touch on the fact that I have a very regimented, disciplined type of schedule. Um, I want to enjoy life and travel and do all of the things. But in order to do that, I have several non negotiables that I do every day. I get up in the morning and I have a pretty strict routine. I make my bed, I take my medicine, I meditate, I pray, I journal. I have the same breakfast every day just because it's easy, and I go to the gym every day. And I really prioritize my sleep. So some women think, oh, you're a fuddy duddy if you go to bed at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock. You really need sleep. Sleep is so important for all of our cognitive functions. And I know that mentally, I'm not prepared for the day if I have not slept. So, my daily non negotiables are those things. I also feel like when you get into your 50s, I felt it a little bit in my 40s, but I definitely feel it in my 50s, that you really hone in on what's important to you. And those things become a priority, and all of the people pleasing and um, the minutia just goes by the wayside. Um, Suddenly, there's this sharp focus of, this is what I want to do, and this is how I want to spend my time. And for me, I know that my time is limited. I also know that there's always a chance that I could relapse. Um, I don't believe I will, because I have the mindset that I'm healed. But if it were to happen, then I'm just living every day now like it's like my time is limited, which it is. All of our time is limited.
That's true. I love that you touched on sleep. I just rewrote my Fit and Fierce program to start week one working on sleep. I used to dive into the macros and into the exercise, and then I realized, none of that is going to work if we don't have the foundation of good sleep. So I love that you touched on that. And I remember talking to you when you were first diagnosed, and you were still in the mindset of prioritizing sleep and staying with your
Yes.
routine as much as you could conceivably do.
Yes. In fact, in the hospital, I had several special overnight nurses who would sort of accommodate me. Instead of coming in at midnight to
Mhm.
wake me up, they would let me sleep until 4 a.m. So I would try to get my night medications by 8 or 8:30, and that was a good stretch of time. I mean, there were many times in the hospital that I slept 15 to 18 hours a day because of my treatments. Um, but anytime that I needed to rest, my nurses also backed me in that. And so that was, I think that was critical for
Very
sure.
much so. That's good that they did that. I know being in the hospital, I know how that is, that 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 1 a.m., let's come in and wake them up
Right,
to do
right.
whatever, take vitals or whatever they have to do. It's crazy. We
Yeah.
also talked off camera prior about what it was like to lose your hair, because I know that that is something that can be traumatic for, well, for men and women, but particularly for women. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so I had waist length hair and it was straight. My hair's curly now. I had waist length hair for my whole life. And I was kind of known for that. That was one of my attributes. So my hair started falling out in clumps, and I had a wonderful male nurse who braided the little bit of hair I had left for me. But my day nurse, the following day came in and said, "Let's just shave it. Let's give you a mohawk and let's take some fun pictures, but let's just shave it off." And I think at that moment, because I chose the power to shave my head instead of waiting for it to all fall out, it really gave me the strength to say, okay, this is a starting point. This is point A. I have a new immune system. I'm building everything from scratch. So I went from one day crying and really grieving for that hair to embracing the the bald head. And interestingly enough, I didn't lose my eyebrows. So I didn't look, it sort of looked intentional, like I had shaved my head. And then I embraced it like I do everything else. I had head wraps to match all my outfits. And as my hair grew, I I just had my first haircut. So I cut a little bit off the sides, and I'm loving it. It's a new look, but I think it fits my new persona, like I said.
It does. It is a new and different look, because I remember that long hair. But there's just such a beauty that shines through. You know, your dad talked about, it was your dad that talked about the Holy
Yes,
Spirit shining through. And I think,
thank you.
having your hair shorter, there, to me, that glow of your face and your beauty, it's
Thank
more
you.
pronounced. It's far more pronounced.
Thank you,
I
Carol.
I want to talk about a post you made not too long ago, because it really struck me. I think because I've had the same happen to me. So it almost was a little triggering when I read it. I'm like, what? I can't believe this. You are so positive, and you like to post your workouts and your workout attire and your progress, which I love. And I love that you're encouraging women that way. And you were attacked for it. Can you describe
Yes,
what happened there?
yes. I had two or three people tell me that maybe I should not post pictures of myself because it was attracting the wrong kind of man, which was that was an interesting perspective. I was also told that um, I was showing off. Um, I understand that there's always going to be someone who maybe is not interested in what I'm doing, and that's okay. Um, but I do post my progress because I want to show people that it is possible. And actually, Carol, when right before we went on air, I was looking at my diary, and I've actually lost closer to 75 pounds from my heaviest weight.
Wow.
Um, And that's tremendous. I want people to understand that even though I was always slim and athletic as a teenager, I went through various ups and downs, and life happens. And I was in a couple of toxic relationships. I had a devastating divorce, like I mentioned before. Um, but that's no excuse. I've had, the little kids. I've been a single parent. I've juggled. I own two businesses now, plus I have contract work that I do 40 hours a week. So I'm a very busy person, but I prioritize my own health and wellness as well as my emotional and mental wellness because you cannot pour from an empty cup. And I want to share that with people that it's possible. You know, an excuse is just that, it's an excuse. And I lived those excuses for many years. I said, oh my gosh, if only I had the time, if only I could do this. Um, and I'm living proof now. I mean, here I am, I'm sitting in front of you in a sleeveless shirt. Look at my
And
shoulders.
you look
It's
tremendous.
I never would have done that. But I think that if you believe in yourself, and it takes a lot. And on that note, um, I want to remind women that be careful who you surround yourself with because it's easy to commiserate with the people that say, I'm going to binge watch this show. Guess what? You can watch Netflix on the treadmill. I've done it. So there's no excuse. Um, you don't have to have a donut to reward yourself. Do you know how I reward myself? I buy a new skirt or a new piece of workout attire, something cute that makes me feel good. Um, it's no longer about food and rewarding myself with food. Um, there's a lot of work that goes into it.
A lot. I agree with you. I love the self rewards. I think that's a big part, and that's a piece that a lot of women miss, is to celebrate the wins along the way, because it's not about a final destination. It really is about the journey and enjoying every step of the journey and every step of your progress. And I do Netflix on the treadmill all the time. I also answer emails and even prepare for podcasts and everything. And they've got so many cool things now, like the
Right,
stand-up desks and the walking pads, and they're not that expensive. It really
right,
they're those excuses are gone. I agree with you.
right, right.
Have you found cravings, emotional eating, stress eating that's kind of gone?
For the most part, yes. And I actually haven't shared this with you, but recently, just a few weeks ago, I was sort of eating whatever I wanted. And I got on the scale one day and I had gained 14 pounds. And I've lost 8. I didn't fall into a puddle because here's the key. I don't use the scale as my metric system. I use my clothes. I'm fit. I wear a size 8 to 10 now. I was wearing probably as high as an 18, but I hovered around 12 to 14 for many years. So my clothes hadn't really changed. I saw a slight increase in my waist dimension and a very slight increase in my thighs. And so I said, okay, this is easy to turn the ship around. You don't have to go down this slippery slope of whatever. So I already know what works for me. And if I am prioritizing protein, and Carol, I'm not really good at tracking. That is one thing that I want to be better at, but um, I eat probably an 80-20 diet. So I allow myself chocolate sometimes. I'll go to a party and I'll have a little cupcake. But for the most part, I'm prioritizing protein. I go back to my habits, prioritizing sleep, hydrating really well, not skipping workouts. And like I said, that was just a few weeks ago, and 8 pounds is gone, and it's fine. So I find it's better than in years past where I would get on this sort of roller coaster and then say, oh, just forget it. You're not ever going to be fit. And then before you know it, you gain 50 pounds. It
Mhm.
happens quickly. And then you have to start again. And um, I've already started over many times. It was humbling to get back into the gym after the cancer treatment. I was leg pressing close to 500 pounds before I got sick, and the most that I could press was 90 when I started, which some people might not even be able to press that. But uh, I'm up to this past weekend I was up to almost 300 pounds. So it it's just a matter of getting back on the track.
And you got right back. I know you contacted me right away, said, I'm ready. I want to go back to the gym. I've got the green light, and you just went for it. And I think it's important you didn't have that all or nothing mindset, because that's something I see. I don't see it with men like I do with women, but women will throw it all out. Like, okay, I had the cookie, might as well have the bag, or I went off track on vacation, so
Right.
I might as well just keep going. And it's not that hard to turn the ship around and get right back. And it is about just an overall consistency, not about being absolutely perfect every minute of the day. So important. Now, with your photography, I know you do a variety of different types. You can do headshot, you can do fitness, which I got to get to you for a fitness shoot, and then boudoir. And I love what you were doing with that boudoir photography, where you were working with women that maybe didn't have a lot of self confidence, maybe they had had cancer, or whatever the case may be, they weren't seeing their bodies as beautiful, but yet you were able to portray that.
That's actually part of my fitness story that kind of weaves into that. I've always been an artist. I've been a makeup artist for over 30 years. And it just so happened that a local photographer was looking for a second shooter, but she specifically was looking for someone who could do makeup. And so I started working with her in 2020 in a boudoir studio, and I fell in love immediately. My first shoot, my client came in and cried, and I knew that I had a gift. I knew I had a gift, and I wanted to use it. And the, I was fortunate to shoot close to 60 women in 2021. My partner or employer, if you will, at that time moved away, and we parted ways amicably, and I took over the studio and changed the name. The name of my studio is Bella Reina. Um, but boudoir photography is really interesting because for years I had the mindset of I want to do something like that when my body's perfect. And I never put in the effort to make my body change. So that was another excuse. I think we as women hold this standard of ourselves that we're not worthy right now. And um, what happened was this was a very good way of training me. It's sort of like putting my feet to the fire. Within 2 weeks of working with my former partner, she said, "You need to come in and have your own shoot." And she gave me a 48-hour notice. At that time, I weighed close to 210 pounds. Um, and I didn't have any lingerie because I never bought it because I'm waiting for this perfect body to appear out of nowhere. Um, she took the pictures, and I was floored. I was in love. I was like, oh my gosh, that's me. She did another shoot after I started working with you in 2022. And at that time, I was down to about 175. And again, just in love. And I can't wait to do a third shoot with another photographer. So that's next on my agenda. But the gift that I get from this is that I've seen this happen over and over with my clients. They'll come in, they are very shy, or they're going through so many different life transitions. They're getting married, they just had a baby. I've had several women with breast cancer who were just about to have their breasts removed. They've gone through a divorce, any number of things. And I find that when we can accept our bodies the way that they are, we can then start to heal them. and transition into what we're meant to be. So that's where the catalyst is. Everybody is beautiful. Um, but I feel like I've witnessed so many women see their photos and then make changes in their life and say, I'm going to come back for another shoot. And they do. Yeah.
And being able to see that beauty every step of the way, I think that's so important. I always say this, I've advised clients this way. I tell them don't change your body from a place of self-loathing, because I do see that a lot. Like maybe
Right.
somebody's made negative comments, or a spouse or a partner has made them feel that they're not enough. Change from a place of self-love, because you want
Right.
health. You want that vitality. You want something different, but not from a place of self-loathing. And I think a part of that is, again, loving yourself every step of the journey and taking joy, because we get so fixated on the end point. And I've been guilty of this myself. I'm very goal oriented, very
Yes.
goal oriented. And I have to watch that, because then you reach the goal or whatever it is, and it's like, oh, you know, it's almost
I've
this
been there. Yes.
little bit of a letdown.
Right. You really have to love what you're doing. And when I'm doing a photo shoot, I take a lot of time. So I'm a little bit different. My studio is a little bit unique in the way that I provide a luxury experience from the beginning. So I don't just book a shoot with you. I will take you through a style consultation. I went to fashion design school. I've always been in love with
Wow,
fashion.
did not know that.
You're always learning new things about me, Carol.
I know all these secrets about Theresa.
One of my friends says I'm an onion, that I have layers and layers, and he's always finding out. I also find that with a positive mindset and a joy-filled mindset, you attract more and more of that. So if you're loathing yourself and you're saying, "Oh, I'm never going to be like that," or I hate the phrase "it must be nice." I hate for
Oh,
anyone to use that phrase
oh,
because that is a cop out. You know, I've been through quite a lot of trauma that we haven't even discussed or would have time to discuss on this podcast. But surviving cancer has to be at the top of that list, and I didn't use it as an excuse. In fact, when I was in Colorado, I was blessed to be staying in a hotel that was next to a beautiful walking trail along a creek, and I walked every day. I couldn't lift weights, and so I did what I could to keep my spirits up. And physical activity helps our mindset, so it's always a good thing.
it is. It is. Just walking is such a stress relief.
Yes,
And that zone two, well, zone two cardio in general, just getting that blood pumping, but not taking yourself to the point where you're, like at a boot camp or something, but just getting
right.
outside, enjoying nature, that stress relief, it's huge. And then doing what you can, because there are times like that. I've had profound back problems since 2016, and have had them flare up again this past, 6 months or so. And I've had to remind myself, you just go and do what you can. Maybe you can't put a heavy bar on your back like you used to, but you can hold dumbbells and squat, or you can do a sumo squat. I'm always thinking of what can I do to replace what I did before, rather than lamenting and feeling bad that I can't do the same things. So I love that you hit on that. And once again, just choosing joy. If you could give advice to, well, to anyone, but women obviously are mostly the listeners of this podcast, about choosing joy, how would you tell them to do this? How would you tell them to go about that?
I'm a big reader, so I've always been a bookworm. And one of my favorite books has in the first chapter a really profound message, and it just says, all I can control in this moment is my attitude and my effort. We can't control what other people are doing, what's happening in the world, the weather, if we have a flat tire. But what we can control is how we respond to that. So every morning I wake up, I start with meditation and prayer, and I'm very regimented about that. I stay in bed and I use a guided app for both, and I set my mindset for the day. I also have a little trick if your day starts to derail. I start again at the top of the hour. So I might have something happen that's um, I don't know, irritating or makes me angry or whatever the case may be, and it happens at 12:15, and I'll say, okay, I'm going to allow myself to stew in this or be angry or process it, but at 1 o'clock I'm going to get back on track. Sometimes I have to do that for 2 or 3 hours, but it's okay. Um, Resetting is easy. I'm also a big fan of Mondays. I'm a huge fan of the first of the month. So resetting and having those little bit of um, giving yourself grace to have emotions and feel emotions, but getting back on track, you can choose that. You can choose to have joy. You can choose to see the good. And the more that you see that, the more that you train your eyes, it's just like training a muscle. So if you train your eyes to have gratitude and joy, it somehow becomes second nature to you. Um, and that goes back to my playlist as well. Music can change your mood. A good workout can change your mood. A good nap can change your mood.
Oh, such good advice. Beautiful advice. I love the reset at the top of the hour. I've never done that before because sometimes you can spiral down. Like you'll have a
Yes,
few things happen, you'll get that text or I don't know, bad news of some sort or something that upsets you or irritates you. It can be awfully hard to snap out of that. And then we get into the mindset of, oh, I had a bad day. I had a bad
right,
day. And instead of saying,
right.
you know what, there's no bad days. We're just going to reset. I love
Hmm.
this top of the hour, even if we have to do it all day long, we're going to do
Right,
that.
right,
That's beautiful.
right.
And what a sense of control that you can have with that.
Yes, because you are in control. A lot of the um, scenarios that occur actually happen in our head. We're thinking about what other people are thinking or doing or saying, and a lot of it is stories that just we conjure up, and it's not supposed to be as stressful as all of that. The other thing I like to do is sometimes you don't feel like going to the gym or making a healthy meal. I like to use the analogy. I learned this in college. People used to ask me how I did my presentations and my speeches. Um, and really, you just put on a persona. I recently listened to a podcast on this very thing. And what I do is I have a different persona. Um, that's the confident person. That's the Wonder Woman, um, you know, the person that can do anything. I don't always feel positive and I don't always feel like I'm in control. But the more that I practice that, the easier it is to slip into that role. Um, and as I get older, I mean, it's fabulous to be in your 50s because I feel more confident and I'm able to be more resilient and bounce back from adversity than ever before. So it's a wonderful place to be in life. I wish there was a way to also put that into the 20-year-olds and 30-year-olds, but they've got youth and bounce and other things, I guess.
Yes, they do. Overconfidence sometimes.
Right.
Yeah, hindsight is for sure 2020. You look back and that knowledge and that wisdom. That's what I loved about turning 50 and now being in my 60s is feeling a sense of wisdom. And I know that sounds like an old word, like the wise old
Hmm.
man or the wise old woman, but I love that, having that perspective, having that understanding.
And we're living in a great age right now. There are so many women online defying odds. I actually started getting interested in weightlifting over a woman who started training when she was 70, and she's now 77. And a lot of people know her. I won't say her name on the podcast, but um, there are many, many fitness influencers online in their 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, and they are doing pull-ups, they are doing burpees, they are doing deadlifts, and I just think that is amazing. And I want to be that person. I want for people to see me and say, "Wow, she can do that," and not be the. I don't know if you've seen recently. They've shown old TV stars like Alice from the Brady Bunch, or um, and they've shown their ages, and they were in their 40s, and they looked like old women. Um,
I have
and
seen that.
and I just refuse to um, conform to what supposedly maybe a woman in her 50s is supposed to look like. I wear mini skirts, I wear thigh high boots, I love high heels, I love makeup, and I'll be wearing that kind of stuff until I take my last breath, as well as being in the gym. I love my gym time.
Yes, in total agreement. I remember telling my mother she had those stretchy polyester pants at the time.
Oh,
This was
yes.
like in the late 60s, early 70s. I said, I am not wearing mother pants when I get to your age.
Right. Right.
She said, well, good, you don't have to. And
Yes.
that always stuck with me. I always came back to, I am not wearing mother pants. I'm
Right.
going to wear what I want to wear. So I love it. Oh, Teresa, this has been wonderful. I really want to be respectful of your time. And as we wrap up, was there anything I didn't ask? And how can the listeners get a hold of you, work with you, find out more about you?
Well, thank you for having me, first of all. I love sharing my story, and if it inspires anyone, I would just be delighted. So I want to share that as much as possible. I'm actually starting a new phase with my photography. I specialize in boudoir photography, but I also offer headshots, and as you mentioned, I am starting to do fitness shoots, because I want for people to really have a sort of a touch point of where they're at with their fitness. I'd love to put a package together for your listeners, and I think we'll do that in the show notes. You can find me on Instagram at Bella underscore Reina underscore photo. I'm also on bellareynaphoto.com. If you're interested in artwork or learning how to write, I'm at silverswirlstudios.com. I, as I mentioned, I'm a professional calligrapher. And, reach out to me, connect with me on Facebook or Instagram, and I'd love to be your friend. I love to encourage other people. If you ever need a gym buddy, I'm a good gym buddy. Um, all of that kind of stuff. So we'll put something together for your listeners, Carol, and I've just loved working with you. I can't say enough of how you've changed my life and been a part of that journey, and you'll continue to be a part of that journey. So I'm excited to see where I will be 3 years from now,
Hmm.
with my fitness, because I think it's just going to continue to evolve. Um,
It will. I've seen it. I've experienced it. You'll continue to progress and take it to new heights. I have no doubt. And Teresa, thank you so much. You're an inspiration to me. I absolutely love working with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day, Carol.
You too.
Bye bye.
And to our listeners, wherever you are in the world, we wish you every blessing. Bye for now.